So at 419 TOL, what we're doing is creating original news content, original creative content to highlight the unique features, culture, and people of the Toledo region. Hopefully to invite a new generation of Toledoans into a conversation about what made Toledo the place that it is today and how we ushered it into the future in the best possible way. So 419 TOL content is absolutely free for you to enjoy, but we're going to be looking for community partners, companies, organizations who believe in the work that we're doing to help us produce more of this unique, original content about our community. You too, even as an individual, can support the work that we're doing here. You got $20 or whatever amount you want to do, as small as $1, you can support this work via the Cash App. This content is free, and it will be free for you to enjoy for as long as you want and as much as you want to enjoy. For as little or as much as you want to support the work that we're doing, it's completely up to you. But you can watch as much of it and enjoy as much of it as often as you like. With that, welcome to this show, and I hope you enjoy it.
Stacy, thank you for coming today, gathering with me here, and we're going to talk a little while, and then we're going to cook.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could be here, and I'm remembering when I first met you, which I think is right after college, and you came back to Toledo, what, 12 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2007, I think, when we met.
Yeah. And you had studied sustainability as an undergrad, is that right?
Yeah, it was more broadly international business, but a focus on sustainability.
Okay, and from there what? You were a founder and a director at Toledo Choose Local, so that's one aspect of sustainability, but you branched out. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so back then I kind of had my feet in a lot of different projects. The Western Lake Erie Alliance for Sustainability, and Toledo Green Drinks. I think you remember that. There was kind of an informal networking event, and it was really kind of a cusp of a lot of environmental initiatives, I think. And then kind of really branched out and traveled the country in a car that ran on waste vegetable oil. So that was kind of a sustainability adventure, and my travels led me to Hawaii, where I learned how to make kombucha.
All right, how did that happen? Is kombucha a Hawaiian kind of drink, or?
Yes. Okay. So kombucha starts out as a tea. You basically make a pot of sweetened tea, and then you add a culture to it. And the culture is a very strange thing. It's a living organism called a SCOBY. And that stands for a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's not the most pleasant looking thing. It kind of looks like a slab of bologna. It comes in any form, from even just the floaty things you'll see in a kombucha bottle up to, I have SCOBYs that are probably this big and they weigh probably like 25 pounds. Wow.
Science fiction.
Yeah. So they're essentially living masses of bacteria and yeast. And then that kind of is set in the barrel of tea, and that converts the tea or the sugars into acetic acids, which that's what gives kombucha the kind of sourness, the tartness, as well as the probiotics.
When I knew you were going to be here and we'd be talking, I kind of looked up, well, where did the word entrepreneur come from? Because originally I thought of you as a sustainability person and an adventurer, traveler, but then you're an entrepreneur, you're a businesswoman now. And I read that, first of all, entrepreneur just means somebody who takes something on, usually for a profit, but one site said sometimes translated as adventurer.
Okay.
So how did that happen? How did you decide, well, I'm making this really now pretty good, palatable kombucha, and I think I can make a profit? How did you make that transition?
I kind of had an aha moment when I was visiting a friend in Oakland, California, and I realized that kombucha was a growing trend, and there were a lot of small and medium-sized businesses on the West Coast, and I kind of realized, like Toledo is we have this 3 or 5 year buffer of when trends hit here. So I thought it was a really good time, and from California, I called the Ohio Department of Agriculture. It was like, okay, I got to move on this now. And I kind of overcame the obstacle I had in my head about the barriers to entry of a commercial kitchen and getting through the red tape that I kind of had prevented me from going that route before.
One of the things I admire is the extent to which you are partnering with other local businesses and nonprofits. How long did it take for you to be able to take that step?
Well, I think the partnerships with local businesses came right away, as far as some of the relationships I had built with Toledo Choose Local and needing to partner with businesses to sell my product. So coffee shops and retail stores and grocery stores, being able to have those relationships right off the bat.
Well, it seems to me that you have somehow put together your sustainability commitment, that ethos that I think drew me to you when I first met you. And then all this adventure, and you brought it home and used it in an entrepreneurial way to make a profit. But the other thing that sometimes doesn't happen. I remember in Toledo Choose Local, one of the problems was that, well, yeah, it's local, but is it good? So you talk about sourcing and flavoring. How did that develop?
I remember some of my earlier flavors, making like a root beer flavored kombucha and a chamomile rose. I still have that one going today, but I think just the attraction to fragrance of herbs and things like that, that's kind of how you can make it continuously fun and exciting, is trying out different flavors and keep it inspiring. So, Toledo has been a very supportive community. There have been flavors and batches that I put out where I'm like, I know it's not my best, but the community has been very excited to have a locally made kombucha, and I think that's, so grateful for that. They're just, constantly cheering me on, and makes me just want to strive to always make a better product. And as I've gotten more stable with our production and with our sales and things like that, that has allowed me to kind of say, okay, this is going and this is stable. Now I can kind of look and see, okay, what ingredients can be grown locally, and who can I get them from, and to focus on that a little bit more, to kind of do some fine tuning of the product.
What are your favorite flavors?
Well, I brought you some today because we have in our shop downtown kombucha on tap. So on our tap flavors, we always do different ones than we do in the bottles, and that kind of allows us to experiment a little bit and kind of offer some really unique flavors. Like maybe we're just trying this out. Like this week we have an Earl Grey and orange peel. So I brought an elderberry and Palo Santo. And so Palo Santo is, it's called the Holy Wood. They're becoming really popular, little incense sticks. Okay. And I first had a Palo Santo kombucha in Chicago, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I tend to lean more toward the things with bark in it, like cherry bark is one of my favorite things, or birch bark and sassafras, all these things that make up root beer. So this is an elderberry and Palo Santo. Another one that's been kind of my favorite new herb to explore with our hops, which traditionally are found in beer, and it wasn't until I started taking the hops outside of the beer that I really could enjoy everything that all the whole essence of the hops. So the one I brought today is a hops and safflower.
All right, here's the question I wonder about. Where did this name come from? Boochy Mama.
Oh, okay. So Boochy is short for kombucha, and then Mama comes from two things. Well, I mentioned like the mother of vinegar, and the SCOBY, or the culture, is often referred to as the mother. So that's kind of where that came from. And also at the time, I kind of identified with this. I was in the kitchen a lot, and just this mama bear kind of vibe. So that's where the logo came from, is this bear. And then the mama bear.
All right, great. And have you worked with local designers too?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have a close group of friends that are very talented artists, and so Matt Taylor has played a huge part in designing. Nikki Eggerstorfer works a lot on illustrations and the labels, and then the original logo drawing was by Michelle Dooney.
12 years, and I can sort of see all the links, follow that thread, and you really put it together. Great job.
Thank you.
Now we're going to cook.
Can't wait.
Let's get washed up and put on our aprons. All right. So,
All right.
being a purist here, I bought some lard. Well, I had some lard in the freezer.
Okay.
So we're going to cook some chicken in lard.
Great.
We're going to chop onions and garlic.
Okay.
Cook that in the same pan, and then we'll just add some liquids to make it finish. So you want to pepper the chicken, and I'll salt it.
Sounds good. I'm an excellent chopper too.
All right, good.
It's more often than not my job at home when we're cooking.
What's it like to have a business in Toledo? How is it different in Toledo than what you saw out west? And, are there some advantages, some things you've had to overcome?
Well, I think one of the advantages that, it's boring, but it's true, we hear it a lot, is just the cost of, operating the business as far as rent and overhead is kind of unbeatable compared to other parts of the country. And just being, that I've grown up in this area, something that's invaluable as a business owner is networking, and the relationships, are just so crucial into everything.
So, did you plan out how you'd expand? I think what I first saw was they were selling and using your product at one of the local breweries, and then another, and then I saw you were on various grocery store shelves, and then Ann Arbor. Was that planned out, or you just?
Yes and no. I definitely honed in on the specific types of businesses that I wanted to approach. But for the first couple of years, it was just really a lot of focus on the product development and figuring out the process. And every time I grow, there's this whole new layer of equipment that I need to relearn, and how to scale up the recipes. And so it's kind of self-regulated itself in that I've never been able to really grow too fast, just because each time I grow, it takes a while. So yeah, it's kind of been targeting certain areas and certain types of stores to grow into. Part of the Boochy Mamas, we have our kitchen, we have a fermentation room, and then the back we do all of our bottling and kind of warehousing. And then in the front we have a retail store. And in the retail space, I sell, in addition to all of the Boochy Mamas products, we do a lot of other natural kind of body care products. So we have, and almost all of them are locally made, and almost all of them are made by women. So we have different types of body care products like shea butter, natural hair oils, chapstick, body sprays, fragrances.
And that's because those are the kind of things that your natural target audience is interested in, or
Yeah.
how were those decisions made?
You could say that. It's kind of just, we've got this space to fill, and what are the products that are natural matches to kombucha. And yeah, what are the people who are drinking kombucha going to be drawn to?
What do you know about your average buyer?
You know, there is kind of the younger demographic of maybe the 18 to 30-year-olds. But I'm finding more and more the baby boomer generation kind of exploring this newfound interest in health foods and what are all these things that are often kind of trendy, like probiotics is like a big thing right now, which is great for me. But so I do get people, you know, kind of 55 and over too, that are coming in and hearing about kombucha for the first time.
Would you recommend to others start your own business? What do you think made it work for you, and what should people ask of themselves before they give it a try?
In one of my entrepreneurship classes, I think this was really great advice that was given. My professor said that, you know, you don't start a business unless you're absolutely super passionate about what you're going to be doing. And from the vantage point now, I can really see why that's so important, because there's just so many highs and so many lows that if you don't love it and have that passion, you're not going to be able to come out of those lows. But I think if someone has an idea that they are fully believe in and fully passionate about, I think that we need more creative enterprises, and it's definitely rewarding and a great outlet for creativity. So I brought you a couple of our special brews.
All right.
So this first one is made with hops, Simcoe hops. And last summer, I started kind of playing with hops as a primary flavoring herb.
So if I like IPA.
Yes. And the very interesting thing I found about the hops kombucha is that non-beer drinkers like it.
It does smell like beer.
Mm-hmm. And then that I use a little bit of apple juice and safflower. At first I was making a hop saffron and a saffron rose, and I'm like, okay, let's see if I can get away with the safflower so I don't have such a high price on it.
What form is the safflower in?
Just dried.
I like it.
It kind of looks like just larger strands of saffron.
Oh.
So.
It's very good.
Thank you.
I like that different balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really been fun to play around with having, you know, traditionally like really bitter herb at the forefront, and it's been a favorite. And this is a product, you know, we talked earlier about having the time to really develop a new product that's kind of first in line is the hops tonics for the next round, and then. This one is an elderberry, so you have more of the fruity, but you know, a deeper fruit. It's not a super sweet. And the elderberry and
it's beautiful.
Palo Santo. Yes. So that's going to have a kind of a sweet and woody aroma in with it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's a whole other level.
Mm-hmm.
I like them both. I like that one better.
You like the hops?
I do. I like the hops.
Yeah, I think the hops make it really versatile. You kind of, when people think about kombucha, you'll say, "Oh, what is kombucha?" It's like, "Oh, well, it's a fermented tea," and oftentimes that can be misleading because then people make this association with tea, and it is tea, but it's completely a different taste and everything than tea. So
For sure. Is there caffeine left in it after all of that?
there is, yeah, residual amounts of caffeine, and you can make a non-caffeinated kombucha. Just it's a slightly different fermenting process.
Can you use herbal teas?
You can. The caffeine in the tea acts kind of like a food for the culture that does the fermenting. So it does better with a caffeinated tea, but you can use herbal teas. But what I usually do is a blend of black tea and green tea, and then add in the flavoring herbs individually.
And then when you're all done, what's left? I mean, you must strain it.
Yeah, so we have kind of like, in brewing, you have the spent grains, we have the spent herbs and spent tea that we compost, all of that.
Okay.
And then the SCOBY kind of sits in the barrels, but the SCOBYs can be transferred from each batch to the next. So each batch we save, about 10% to go into the next batch, kind of as the activator starter.
Okay. The whole thing, or just?
Like 10% of the liquid.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that there's really nothing left. There's not really like a waste byproduct or anything like that.
I learned something.
Yeah, you should come check out the fermentation room sometime.
I've seen it a long time ago.
Okay.
But now I'd see it with different eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's such a joy today to have Stacy Jurich here. I've known Stacy since she came back home from college, and it's wonderful to see how she has taken her experiences, both in Toledo, the network she's built in Toledo, and what she's learned in her travels. When she was in Hawaii, she learned about kombucha, and she brought that home and perfected her recipes and made it better and better and better, and became an entrepreneur and a businesswoman with that as Boochy Mama. And these used to be called tonics. Now these wonderful kombuchas are delicious. So she has combined her interest in sustainability with her instincts as an entrepreneur, and she's on top of all that, maybe the most important thing, I think she's been striving for excellence. And in this product, I think she's really achieved that. And so it's just great to hear about all of that, to taste the kombuchas, and to have a chance to cook for a little bit with Stacy as well.